So my name's Suzanne Cotter and I'm the Director of the Museum of Contemporary Art Australia, and I've been the Director here for almost 2 years, and prior to that I've been working as a Museum Director and as a Curator in Europe, in the UK, in the US and also in the Middle East. So I worked with the Guggenheim Museum on the development of the Guggenheim Abu Dhabi Museum, but I also have a long-standing connection with Beirut and artists from Beirut. So I first traveled to Beirut in 2005, and it was part of a research trip organized by the Arts Council of England, and I traveled with curators and museum directors. And while I was there, it was a very particular time, as everyone in Lebanon will know, and I met astounding people and incredible artists. And I was so inspired by my experience of traveling there and of the people that I met that I decided to develop an exhibition of showing the work of contemporary artists from Beirut from the post-Civil War generation. And we presented this exhibition in Oxford in 2006. So I worked very, very hard for a year. And we presented this exhibition, which turned out to be a really groundbreaking exhibition and a very important exhibition, not only for those artists, but for the Western world's understanding and appreciation of what artists were doing in Lebanon and in the broader Arab world. Tarek is sort of the continuation of my relationship and my history with Beirut and Beirutis and Beiruti artists. Although I'd never met him in Beirut, I first met him in Sharjah when I was curating the Sharjah Biennial, and Tarek was an artist in resident there. We got to know one another. This was in 2010, and then we kept seeing one another, and I kept seeing his work, and he was becoming a more and more important artist. And so from there, in 2014, I invited him to Portugal when I was directing a museum in Porto, the Sir Elvis Museum, to come and work with us. And he eventually came and presented a major work as part of a performance festival. Then I moved to Luxembourg and I invited him to show this work, Water's Witness, and we collaborated with Porto. Then I moved to Sydney and I said, let's please bring this work to Sydney. So as Tarek says, we've been following one another for over a decade, and finally we come together in Sydney. Tarek is an artist who studied music and composition, but he has increasingly worked in the visual arts space. And as you can see here, he really understands how to make a sculptural environment. But this sculptural environment is in fact a musical instrument. It's a self-composing work, and as we can see, there are people in the galleries and they're sitting on stones. They're walking between the cables, and as they move and as they sit, they're actually impacting the way in which the sound works. And so ultimately, the whole piece is a composition in motion. The materials actually come from different parts of the world. They come from Athens, they come from Singapore, they come from Lebanon, and they come from Sydney. And with each iteration of this work, it's now been presented 4 times in different parts of the world, Tarek introduces a new physical element. So here we have sandstone from Sydney. The cables are all part of, we can say, the sculptural environment, but they allude to the fact that this is a live instrument, if you like. So it's like walking inside an instrument for the visitors to the exhibition. So it's extremely atmospheric. It's extremely geological, archaeological, cultural. It has many layers to it. Very poetic as well. So here I am standing in front of the museum, and we are right in front of Sydney Harbour. And Sydney Harbour in Aboriginal Australian is called Warrain, and the land that we are standing on is Tallawoladah. So it's a very culturally significant site that is connected to over 60,000 years of continuous cultural presence by the Indigenous peoples of this country. So we're very proud to have our museum here. It's also a wonderful, wonderful location for people to come through, and our relationship to the water, the harbour and the light of Australia. But the Museum of Contemporary Art here opened in 1991. We're dedicated to showing contemporary art, which is to say the work of living artists, and we show the work of artists from Australia and from around the world, as we've seen with the beautiful installation we have here by Tarek Atoui. We have over 4,500 works in our collection, predominantly works by artists living and working in Australia. But Australia, as a very multicultural country, means that those artists come from many different cultural backgrounds. So we have beautiful work that speaks many languages. So this work here is a commissioned artwork for this part of the building, the foyer wall of the museum, and it's by an absolutely fantastic Aboriginal Australian artist by the name of Vincent Namatjira. Vincent is only 40 years of age, and yet he's proving to be one of the most exciting artists in Australia today. Obviously a painter. He lives in the central deserts of Australia in an artistic community. He's also a musician, and he comes from a very important artistic lineage. His grandfather was the famous Australian painter Albert Namatjira, and we can see a portrait of Albert Namatjira here up behind me, up on the wall. It comes from a very famous photograph of the artist, because he used to drive around in a truck around the outback of Australia painting landscapes. And many of his works are in the collection of the National Gallery of Australia. Vincent himself is what I like to describe as very much an Indigenous pop artist. He really works with popular cultural figures, but those popular cultural figures coming from sport, from football, from art, are all Aboriginal Australians. So he's reframing the way we might think about what is pop, what is popular culture, and who are the icons of today.
The Museum of Contemporary Art Australia is Australia's only independent contemporary art museum. It consists of 4 levels, 3 levels of exhibition spaces, 2 levels of temporary exhibition spaces, and a level dedicated to the MCA's collection, which focuses on contemporary Australian artists. We also have the National Centre for Creative Learning, a wonderful space where students, young people and adults can come and learn more about art and do workshops. We also have an incredible cafe on level 4 with stunning views out towards the harbour and the Sydney Opera House. The Museum of Contemporary Art Australia gets over 1 million visitors a year and is dedicated solely to contemporary artistic practices. A Rio to the River is a large-scale exhibition by the American artist Zoe Leonard. Over 6 years, from 2016 to 2022, the artist photographed along the Rio Bravo-Rio Grande, the international border between Mexico and the United States. This exhibition consists of hundreds of photographs depicting different aspects of the river and the border communities. It looks at ideas around migration, around border force, agriculture and climate change. It's a stunning exhibition and it's here at the Museum of Contemporary Art Australia. What we're seeing here is the Arnott's Bark collection. This collection was gifted to the museum in 1991, and it's one of the most important collections of bark paintings anywhere in Australia. It brings together a whole range of different artists from the communities in the north of Australia in Arnhem Land. The Museum of Contemporary Art Australia consists of 4 floors. A number of the floors are dedicated to temporary exhibitions, and we also have an exhibition floor dedicated to the museum's collection of contemporary Australian artists. On this gallery we see a selection of works from the museum's collection of over 4,500 objects. The MCA also has an incredible cafe on the top floor, level 4, with sweeping views out across the harbour and onto the Harbour Bridge and the Sydney Opera House.
My name's Rahayel, and I'm chair of the board of the Museum of Contemporary Art Australia. I'm a proud Lebanese Australian. My parents were born in Lebanon and I was born here in Australia, and one of our roles at the MCA here is to encourage audiences from multicultural communities, including our magnificent and large Lebanese community here in Sydney and across Australia.
المتحف بده ساعتين على القليلة، ومن بعدها أول شيء كان رائع، من بعدها وقفنا على جريس هو المطعم تبعه كان مين نتغدى، وشكله على المنيو في اشياء حلوة كتير.
My grandfather came to Australia by himself in 1949. He left my grandmother in the village in Nihra with my mother, who was a baby at the time, and my grandmother was pregnant with their second child. He came to Australia and he was here for 4 years before he went back to get my grandmother, my mother, and his newborn son from Lebanon. He was waiting until he saved enough money to put a deposit on a house, and then went back and got them 4 years later. So Mum came here as a 4-year-old child, and my father came here in 1970. He was an adult at the time, 24 years of age, and I was born here in Australia.
Good food, very good food with a great view. تخيلوا قاعدين انتم يمكن بكافيه ببين مثل كانه سياحي، ورح ناكل اكل كيف ما كان ابدا. الصحون روعه، البرزنتيشن عظيمه، الاكل مزبوط، كل شغله فيها رونقها فيها طعمتها. انا اخذت الفيشن شيبس حبيتها كثير، البطاطا بتعقد، السمكه مزبوطه ومن جوا غير شكل. كان عم يخبرني ديفيد عن صحنه او ما لحق يخبرني لانه خلصوا كله سوا. Museum of Contemporary Art لازم تجوا تقضوا فيه على القليل نص نهار. very interesting stuff to see. نحن من هون رح نكفي نتمشى شوي قدام الديزني كروز اللي عامله ضجه كثير. طقس رائع، هوايات حلوين مع شمس كثير حلوه. ومن هون رح نكفي مرمتنا، في عنا بعد هيك كم فود ستوب هيك واشياء حلوه بهالنهار كثير حلو بسيدني. Definitely one of my favorite cities in the world.